A few little things before we get started. I have made some notes here. First off is it's important, I think, just to make sure that I do have kids and I am doing this from home. So if there are any interruptions, then you know what's going on. I do also have dogs, and those dogs do like to be let in and out of the house. I have organized for someone else to take over that task during this session, but if things go wrong, you will either hear or know about it with me disappearing, but hopefully that's not going to happen. So the first time I've done a webinar like this, and I hope that you enjoy it. Let's therefore get started. You can ask questions. There are all sorts. It's looking like a great little system. There are questions coming in already, and I will get to those. I'm also going to be asking you questions, so I'm going to be running some polls throughout this, and we should be online for about an hour. So I'm hoping to wrap this up just before 5 o'clock. And the first poll, just to make sure that the polls are working, is I'm going to be able to click here, and I'm going to click on that one there. So I've now launched a poll. Hopefully everybody will see that on their screen, and if everything is working tickety-boo, you should be able to do that. Yes, I can see some answers coming in there. That's great. Fantastico. Okay, so that's how you answer polls. So that's when I ask you a question, that's how you answer it. And that's fantastic. Okay, so I'm the co-founder of Email Movers, a full service email marketing agency. And I have been doing email for over 17 years because I was doing it before I started Email Movers with Jamie. I focus very much on B2B. We do as a company. However, we also work with clients on B2C. B2B is very much our focus, however, and it's about lead generation. Marketing automation, I love it. Absolutely adore ideas around marketing automation. So if you are a marketing automation nut, then please let me know. Let me know about the tools that you're using, all that kind of stuff. I spend hours looking at Zapier. I'm up until very late in the evening doing that. I really do enjoy it. So that's a little bit about me. So at the end of the webinar, I'm going to be giving you access to a free campaign checklist, which lists through everything that you need to check off when you are running a cold email outreach campaign. I'm also going to be giving you details on a webinar offer right at the end and a 24-hour special bonus. But it's right at the end, so we're going to get through all the juicy stuff first. Okay, so Email Movers, just a little bit about the business. We've really been working on email. It's in the name, Email Movers. We started out in live delivering emails for Virgin Mobile. We got a contract with them to deliver their newsletters, and that escalated to doing the whole of their delivery for the whole of Virgin Group, and we did it for about 10 years. And it was very exciting working with a company like Virgin. We attracted other companies, and at one point, one of these companies, it was actually Toyota, that asked us whether or not we could source data for them instead of them always using their own existing data, which is where the data brokering and the list building came from. And then they said, have you got any business data? And that led through to us doing business emails. And it's really been the focus of the agency ever since. We are a data owner, and we do manage a file of just over 700,000 business contacts very carefully. We have people in the business who put their blood, sweat, and tears into that data. We run campaigns and all sorts. So it's important for us to understand a little bit about why we're here. Obviously, it's about making money for the businesses that we're involved with. What I'm going to walk you through today is how to generate cost-effective leads for the business within a 2-hour turnaround. For the purposes of this webinar, I'm only actually going to be running a campaign out to a very small audience. There's 50 to 80 people in the audience that I'm running a campaign to, and it generates leads. And the reason I've done that is because it doesn't matter how much data you have, it's what you are saying to the data that's important. It's the message, it's the offer. Theoretically, you could get a 100% conversion rate if you're saying the right thing to each person that you're sending the message to. You don't have to be sending hundreds and hundreds of thousands or millions of emails. That's not what this is about any longer. You can do very small audiences. Owing to the time that you need to put into it, and also the return that you get from it, you will find what volume is working for you as you do it. It's about 2 hours to run a campaign from beginning to end. And that campaign can then run for a couple of weeks. I'll show you why in a moment. We'll talk a little bit about the privacy and compliance, and you will leave here with the skills to do all of this today and the tools that you need in order to do it. Okay, so one quick poll that I would like to ask is around what channels you're currently using. So in order for me to do that, I'm going to be running a poll now. Now this is the channels that you're using as a business. So it might be pay-per-click or SEO, it might be email marketing to your leads and prospects, or it might indeed be email marketing to cold data, you know, prospect data, or something entirely different. I'd love you to let me know a little bit more about that so I can gauge a little bit about your experience. So what you'll learn is cold email isn't cold if it's done correctly. Also how to source data, target and create your own campaigns, and how to write effective emails. The copywriters are so overlooked in email marketing. They are the absolute, they are the keystone of successful campaigns. If anything comes out of this, I would hope that you would consider your copywriter to be one of the more important components, because they can take your offer, they can take the information about your product and your service, and they can create a message that will resonate with your audience. You can send millions of emails, and if you have the wrong message in there, you won't get the results that you want. You need to have the right message in there, and it can take them a few attempts to write it as well. Don't give up on a copywriter just because they let you down once or twice. You need to let them understand your product, and you've got to spend time with them so that they really understand that. I've worked with copywriters, and they are sometimes, the quality of the stuff that they come out with is fabulous, far better than I could do. So, and you know what, they're not that expensive. If you look at the results that you get from the campaigns, they aren't expensive. So we're looking at bringing these three things together to make more money for the business. So it's a simple process that anybody can follow, and this is the process that we're going to look at now. It's important as a first step to know who you're targeting. So in order to do that, we need to profile the people that are coming into the business. I always look at the last person into the business in terms of customer before I send a campaign out to my prospect list. I base my prospect list on the last person to buy, within reason. I look at companies that are coming in and actually purchasing products. I don't necessarily look at the leads that we're generating. I look at the people that are going from lead to conversion. I look at those people that are actually buying my product. And if possible, I get on the phone with them and I find out why they bought it. What was the challenge that we helped them solve? What was the idea? What's their big idea? And there's a lot of ideas at the moment. You can really gain a lot of intelligence when you talk to your customer, even if it's briefly for a few minutes after they've purchased the product. Just why did you buy it? Why did you choose us? What was it about it? Because you can use that information in the message that you send to prospects. That's the most important part. The count, how to get data is the count, where to go for the data, which tools you can use for it, how to edit the campaign, the message, so that it resonates with your audience, what kind of format to send it in, how to cleanse data that you've got, and then ultimately how to send the campaign out, one-to-one cold email outreach campaign, and analyze the results so that you can evolve it. For instance, looking at an objection that comes back in from someone, and then tailoring your next message so that it includes an answer to that objection. It very much is a process that evolves. Okay, so profiling, identifying the last customer. Well, we use our own tool. It's called contactenhance.com, and it took us quite a long time to develop the tool, but it does the analysis for you quickly. So if a person was to use the internet and Companies House and the client's website, that it would probably take them somewhere in the region of about an hour to maybe an hour and a half to find all the information that Contact Enhance finds in a few seconds. So it means that you can go quicker, and there's a free trial. The free plan is 50 credits per month are free. So you can put the email address in of the customer, and it will tell you the company name. It goes off to Google. It goes off to Google Maps. It goes off to Twitter. It goes off to all sorts of different APIs, and it finds out the information that it needs in order to give you the SIC code, which is the standard industry classification, to give you the size of the business, how many employees they've got, for example, where they're located geographically in the country. And all that information is going to be really important to you when you start choosing your target audience, because you're going to base them around that customer that's just bought a product. And the idea is that if that customer has just bought a product, has told you why, the why becomes the content of your message. So a client came to us on the 16th of April looking for a list of care homes. In order to best meet their needs, we did some research. We found out very quickly. We knew from their domain what it is that they were doing, but we didn't know their company name, and we need the company name for the SIC code, and so on and so on. So what I'm actually going to do now, just before I move on to the next slide, is I'm just going to ask you a quick question about the size of business that you typically will be dealing with. Now, a lot of people do say that they know the target profile and they know it inside out, and they teach every company employee that comes on board what that profile is. That's great, and we have an average customer profile across our 4,000 odd clients. We've worked with over the last 17 years, and we do have a rough idea. However, there's nothing like looking at the profile of your last customer, and it could be very different to your average profile, and it's suggesting that the market is moving. So when there's large movements in the market, like there is at the moment, you need to look at the last customer that came in and understand as much as you can about him. Okay, so what we've got is the ability to look in a split second at what it is that that customer is all about. And we're looking in this particular instance at a company that manufactures stationery. And this is envelopes, printed envelopes with the name of the business on it, letter-headed paper, all sorts of stuff. After talking to them, we could understand why they were targeting care homes with people sending letters and everything. We appreciated that they sell nationally from their website. They have an e-commerce solution. They have contact telephone numbers. They can send stuff all over the country. And we can see that they are general, that the person was a general manager who purchased the data. That's important. The actual person who placed the order, which makes them a senior decision maker. Those things are important because now I have an idea of an audience that I can be chasing. We use a tool called CountRunner, and countrunner.com is a tool that we've had, that must have been live now for several years. Contact Enhance is quite innovative. CountRunner is simply a count engine. So we have the 715,000 contacts in there. And with those 715,000 contacts are all sorts of filters. So SIC code, business size, all this kind of stuff. And you can slice and dice the data as much as you want those filters because you have access to an online tool to do that. Whilst I'm going through this slide, I'm just going to end that polling, and I'm also going to create the geographical one. So a little bit about where it is. So if you are targeting companies hyper-locally, you can still do this. If you're an accountant and you're targeting businesses in Durham or wherever it is, and there's only a few hundred of them or a couple of thousand, you can still use this tool. This tool actually could work even better at a hyper-local level. It works nationally and it works internationally as long as you tailor your message. We use it nationally whilst we sell across, well, we sell mostly US and in the UK. As you can see here, I've got from initially 86,000 contacts across the manufacturing sector. I've dwindled that down to 542. And from those 542, after putting on a senior decision maker flag, I've brought it down to 267. So 267 contacts are in my list. Now you talk to cold email marketers and they will start to get a little bit worried at this point because 267 is not a lot of data. Typically when you're sending campaigns out. In fact, it's a frighteningly low level of data because you're into the hundreds instead of the hundreds of thousands. So if we can make it work with a few hundred records, surely we're going to be able to make it work with larger volumes. That's the idea here. We've set ourselves a pretty high bar. Okay, so we've got a few other things that we need to do to the data once we've exported it. So those 267 records can be exported as Excel spreadsheet straight out of Count Runner. Now you need Excel. And the reason you need Excel is because you need to make some changes on that database before you send to it. And one of the things is that you need to work out the capitals. So when you send an email out to someone and you say, I'm wondering whether or not Email Movers needs any help with its payroll or whatever it might be, you wouldn't use Email Movers in capitals because it's not very personal. You wouldn't write an email like that. So there are various functions in Excel that allow you to play around with that. And one of them is the equals proper function. It's a great tag. And what it allows you to do is if you take your cell, which has got the company name in it, let's say Email Movers, and you then create a new cell with that formula equals proper, and then put, let's say that it's A1 is where your Email Movers is. If it's equals proper A1, then in that cell you'll see, as what I've got here, is the word Email Movers, and the first letter of each word is now capitalized and the rest is lowercase. It's so important to do that properly. It's also important to remove things like LTD or limited or PLC because you simply wouldn't write them. And when you do put those in there, people can tell that that email is now not as authentic as if it were written by a person with just Email Movers, because that's how I would normally write it. And that is so important. If you're going to do one-to-one cold email outreach in this way, there are some small details that you have to get right. And this is one of them. You're going to be personalizing the email and you need to put placeholders in there that have been worked out properly. Most people have Excel. The formula, it's a different formula, but Google Sheets has a similar formula and it saves a ton of work because you can then just copy and paste it down your entire column and it will do them all for you. And if you're only working with 267 contacts, it's so easy. But Excel can take up to 1 million, so you can do it with them all. That saves you a lot of time. Okay. So the next thing is after the editing process, we're left with 251 contacts. That's because I removed some contacts also where the first name was just like a letter or initial. Sometimes when people are filling in forms, they just put J. Abrams instead of Jacob or whatever it is. And you can't start an email with Dear J or Hi J. So you need to get rid of those records. I don't bother trying to figure out what they are. I just get rid of them. just out of the interest of time, really. But once you've got rid of those contacts, you can be pretty much assured that those records that are in there are now going to be personalized properly. I like to be 100% on top of the data. So even when I'm sending to my own data that was cleansed maybe 2 or 3 days ago by one of the members of our team, I do the cleanse again just before I send to it, especially at the moment. There is a lot going on right now in terms of workforce. And sending emails out to people whose email address has been turned off and is no longer live, what we refer to as a hard bounce, it's now an invalid email address because that person has left or moved roles, what have you, will result in damage to the reputation of your domain name, because that's just how it works. There's no forgiveness in that algorithm. You must get that right. So I cleanse that data literally within that 2-hour window. That volume of contacts can be done quite quickly. And I use emailcleansing.com. Emailcleansing.com, Email Inspector, it's a tool that we developed specifically for people to log in. It's something like £8 a month for a license that allows you to do 1,000. It is peanuts. It might slow you down a little bit, maybe 15 minutes, but please do it, because it will remove any of those invalid emails and you won't have to deal with them. I'll give you an example here. I used emailcleansing.com to cleanse the list in that 2-hour period that I was using to do this. I then sent out to it. I'd removed all invalids and I still got 3 bounces. That means 3 email addresses changed in between the time of me doing this and sending it out to it. So I can't stress how important that is. Anything over a 10% hard bounce and you start to get into real problems with some of the larger ESPs. Okay, you can see here that that reduced me down to 54 contacts. Now, the cold email marketers out there are going to be getting they're going to be thinking to themselves, what is going on here? This cannot be 54 generating leads from 54 contacts. You can see here that I had my 3%, and this was data that I downloaded and cleansed. And I still had 8 bounces. I don't go to the unknowns. An unknown is, for example, a catch-all email address. I don't know that it is valid. It's just I haven't got a response back from the server. So I just get rid of them. You don't necessarily have to do this. I do it because I've done this a lot, and I think it's best only to send to OKs. So now I've got 54. You can send to those 75%. So you'd send to those 75% if you were using a bulk email delivery platform, ActiveCampaign, or any of the different platforms out there. We've got platforms ourselves, and you can send to them. But when we're doing one-to-one cold email outreach through a non-precious domain, it's important to get rid of those and only send to the OKs. Email Inspector gets rid of any duplicates, so you don't need to worry about that. There may be duplicates that come out of CountRunner, but this tool deals with them, so you don't have to do them manually. Okay, so how are we doing for time? 16:23. I hope that you guys are still with me. It seems as though no one has left, which is nice. I have had a question come in. Yes, you'll receive a copy of the slides. You'll also get the cheat sheet or checklist, which is every item that it was just a template I downloaded off Canva and then added all of the different things that you need to do. You'll get a copy of that as well. And that's actually, that email is handled by Zoom. It's just an hour after the presentation you get that. So, okay, we'll keep going. So we've got the date, we've got the profile of the people that we're wanting to target. We've used Contact Enhance for that. You don't have to use Contact Enhance. You can do it manually, and you can, if you get good at it, you can do it in probably half an hour to 45 minutes. But Contact Enhance is free. It's got those 50 free credits. You shouldn't really need to do any more than that, so why not? CountRunner. That's where you can get the data. There are lots of different tools available within CountRunner as well for you to filter it down. There's e-commerce, flags, all sorts of stuff. And email cleansing, Email Inspector, which is going to allow you to get rid of any email addresses which you're not 100% sure about. Okay, so I now move on to the delivery element of this. Now, We call it the create send element, I guess, because what we're going to now do is we're going to send out through G Suite accounts, through Google accounts. This is because it's one-to-one. It's not a bulk email broadcast that we're doing. And it's therefore important. The reason why we use G Suite is because they have, with a lot of emails we're delivering to a Gmail emails. They are actually Gmail servers that are being managed by companies. So Gmail likes Gmail, of course it does. So G Suite is a good one to use. I think it's $8.99 a month for a G Suite account. Then you can go in, lower it down to basic, and it's $4.99 a month for a G Suite account. And then it's an extra, I think it's $4.99 per account, something like that. And you can create one account and you can target these 54, 55 people that you've created through that one account, so long as you warm it up okay. It's important that you use a non-precious domain. Even when you're sending to that low volume of contacts, it is really important. The last thing that you want to do, if you're doing this for a client or if you're doing it for yourselves, is put your precious domain in danger. All it takes is for one person to say, this, I don't like this, and instead of unsubscribing, report it as spam, and suddenly you're into trouble. It's not a very forgiving algorithm. So therefore you can create, for example, if you're, for email movers, we've created mail-emailmovers.com. So it's a subdomain, but it's actually a domain. So mail-emailmovers.com is actually a real domain. It's got everything in terms of DMARC and SPF records, all that kind of stuff, which you may not know about, is important. But with this, it takes care of all that process because it's just being managed by G Suite. So G Suite deal with all of that for us. One thing is important here is that we create profiles that are not real people. Now, the reason we do that is because if you put together a great big plan for either yourself or your client to generate leads over the next 6 weeks using one-to-one cold email outreach, and you use a person within your business, which you can do, you know, you talk to them and say, look, we want to do this, we want to do it in your name, maybe 2-3 people, and they all volunteer for that to happen, that's great. And then one of them leaves. Well, now you've got all this work that you've put into creating this campaign, you've got all the data, you've got these emails going out, you've got a sequence of messages going out, you've got a lot of automation that's gone into creating it. It only took you 2 hours to create it, but you're actually a week into the campaign, and that person leaves. The whole campaign has to stop now, and you've got to start again. And I have had that happen to me. So it's best to create an alias account, just a corporate identity, 3 or 4 people, 3 or 4 G Suite accounts. I've done it on one, and then you have total control over them. Those people who the leads are being forwarded onto, they can take over, no problem. Melissa can introduce an account manager, and that can be automated, no problem. But if it's in that actual account manager's name in the lead gen process, you can run into real problems if they're no longer with the business. Okay, so multiple messages. What is really important here, we have an application which I'll send a link out to you, and this manages everything. So it manages the process of delivering the emails through these G Suite accounts to the people that we've downloaded from CountRunner and cleansed through Email Inspector. It manages the load balancing. It manages the whole process from beginning to end. The unsubscribes, the second message or third message in the sequence. It messages whether or not to send it to them. Because if that person replies, it stops, all automation stops, and we expect a human to step in. After all, it's potentially a warm lead, and it's about this time that a person should step in. I don't know about yourselves, but if you've ever used marketing automation, you may well get this kind of automated buzzhead on where you're like, oh, how do I automate this? How do I automate that? When a person replies, stop automating. You know, that was the goal of the whole marketing automation, to get that person to respond. I know that there's some fabulous bots out there, And these messenger bots will give all sorts of answers to pre-programmed questions. And I've used them myself, but there's nothing like forwarding that response straight onto an account manager and that person calling them up and having a real conversation with them. Okay, so there's a few little things that we have to do in terms of setting the campaign out. It does everything in terms of auto-archiving messages that aren't, because we're getting a high volume of out of office messages at the moment, because obviously people are furloughed and what have you. I normally create 2 messages in the sequence. Now, the first message is my offer message, or it's my introductory message. It's the one that's been really tailored for that recipient. The second message is just a very brief follow-up. Did you get my previous message? There's a really interesting book out there. I can't remember the name right now, but it was written after Obama won the presidential race. His sequence had over 1,000 messages in it. So if you donated money to, or if you went to his website and registered, I believe that there were over 1,000 messages in that sequence asking people that had registered for $1 here, $1 there. And that's where the bulk of the money that he raised came from, was from people in America giving $1, $2, $3, $4, $5. It wasn't from people putting millions of dollars in. And a lot of it was done through this sequential autoresponder, which is pretty much what this solution does. And don't just send offers. You know what? I'm surprised sometimes by the number of people who send offers. You don't have to send out an offer in order to get a sale. You can just send out a message with an idea, and that can get you a sale, especially right now when people are feeling a little bit frozen and they're not quite sure what is working and what isn't working. Go to people with an idea. I would say that I've probably changed most of the messages that I've been sending to go in with an idea first, and then see whether or not those people bite down for more information. So for example, in this particular instance, I might go to other printing companies and say, hey, had you considered reaching out to care homes? Now, if I do that, there will be people in that audience who had not thought of that, who now start thinking of it, and they then think, well, actually, that's a pretty good idea. You know, care homes are good, and they do all the hard work themselves. The only thing that they will then need from me is the product and service in terms of the list of care homes that we've got. If they need the email delivery, sure, we can help them with that. If I had just gone to them and said, would you like to buy a list? Then there's no big idea there. I've not done that work. I've not really gained anything other than just sending an email out to them. The chances of them unsubscribing or maybe even reporting me for spamming them or something are really high. There's just no relevancy in there. If I go in there with a big idea, it becomes highly relevant and far less cold. And if I do it with the right personalization, if I do it at the right time with the right tone, the response rate can be really good. It's important to remember that people buy from people. And at the moment, with people working from home more and more, this is becoming a really interesting phenomena of, you know, this is, I'm no longer a representation of my business. I'm actually working from home at my home office, trying to get this working and trying to drive more sales. Talk to them as an individual. Use words like I, you. I mean, it sounds simple, but a good copywriter. We've got a copywriter actually in this call here who I've worked with in the past, Nick. And these guys, I'm saying it again, repeating myself, but they are worth their weight in gold. Once they get a hold of your product, a good copywriter can really bring that out. But they do need to talk to you first. This is a little bit of an idea of well, this is the campaign that I actually sent out. We're looking at a real campaign here that I sent out. It's now a couple of weeks ago and generated leads. So this is really what happened. I've tailored it a little bit here to put in some placeholders. I opened it with, I've got an idea for you. You know what? If that's not going to get you reading this, then I don't know what is. But it was simply, I've got an idea for you. I've just finished building XYZ, whatever it is that you might have done for a company type. You know, just list what it is that that specific industry was. you can see that there's a lot of personalization in there. I've got company name, I've got product, service, company types, all sorts. And then would you like me to send you through a sample, or do you want me to send you through a cost? I can also send you a cost to run, blah, blah, blah. It's important also to put PS in there, sign it off as yourself, because, you know, or sign it off from Melissa or whoever it is that you did, and wait for that response to come back in. You can link through, okay? You can link through to a website, but do it in your email signature. Because if you put it right in the middle of your email copy, you may lose everybody off to that destination. And you've also lost the opportunity to develop that relationship. I don't know about you, but if I see a link, I sometimes skip all the text and just go straight to the link to see what it's all about. And if that website doesn't do the work, then I'm gone. That email, however, if the link is in the signature, then it's because I've read the email and now I'm down and I'm looking to know a little bit more about what you do. And now when I click through to that website, you've done all that hard work. But what's better is that I might click reply and say, hi, Melissa, how much is this? Or can you do this? Or my objection is, I've thought about this, but my objection is X, Y, Z. So I sent out to these 52 contacts. And this is what I got. I got 4 replies from that. So that was people actually replying and saying, from just a few dozen emails, I had 4 replies. And from those 4 replies, I had really 3 leads. Lindsay shared my email with her MD and told me about her objection, which is really good. It's good when a person tells us about their objection. What we're looking for is to try and improve the next email that we do. And objections are, you know, if you've done this kind of stuff before, answering an objection in your introduction is one easy way to close more deals or generate more leads. And in this particular instance, that person was saying, we're concerned about GDPR. So my next email might say GDPR compliant data or GDPR compliant lists. As we all know from the ICO's blog post last year, B2B, when it is PLCs and limited companies, even if it is a first name and a last name included in that email, is absolutely fine. That is within the rules if you're using legitimate interest. You can't use consent, but you wouldn't want to. You can use legitimate interest within your business to target those people with direct marketing, not for any other purpose. So you can't use it for credit control or not credit control, for credit analysis or to give person a particular, you know, credit rating or something. It has to be direct marketing that you're using it for. Alison spotted the follow-up and forwarded it onto her marketing department. And it wasn't just a casual forwarding on. It was like, oh, this could be quite interesting, blah, blah, blah. John asked for a quote, said, yeah, great. How much is this? And James asked for about what other products we've got. So he did the thinking for himself and thought, oh no, I don't want to do care homes. I want to do XYZ, construction, whatever. I'd given him the idea and he'd taken it and gone with it. John had just said, yeah, how much is this? Which is what the email was designed to do, is to try and get people to come back and ask for a price. Okay, so the campaign took me 2 hours to create. Now that was whilst I was creating the presentation as well. So actually, I bet you 45 minutes I could turn this around. After a couple of times of doing it, you probably turn this whole process around within 45 minutes. I only sent to a few dozen records, 54, I think, records in total. I generated 3 leads. I worked out the cost of those leads with everything that I'd done was about £12, a little bit more, maybe 12 to 15 pounds. I can repeat the process at any time. So any lead that comes in within 2 hours or within 45 minutes, I think you can get a campaign out to a similar target audience. Also, a nice thing about Email Mover is that you can add a 3rd email or a 4th email into the sequence about something else, because you're now engaging people that you previously engaged a couple of weeks ago. So you could just put an email out saying, oh, we've edited this product now and it's got XYZ, and those people will now get it because it's a sequential autoresponder. And they'll get it as part of a relationship. So there's some context around it as well. And then they can read up the email and see what's going on. And it also does bring that email back up to the top of their inbox. We actually had a 4th lead fifth lead come in from this about 2 days ago. So the results increased. I could clone the campaign as well. So I could just clone it. That would take it from 45 minutes probably down to about 25 minutes, because it took me about 20 minutes to set the campaign up. Okay, so if we work the costs out with that fifth lead in there, it was about £20 that it would have cost me for those 84 contacts that I had from CountRunner at a rate of £240 per 1,000, which is our standard rate card. The data cleansing was £2 per 1,000, so it's not £8, it's £2 per 1,000 per month, something like that. Or is it £8? No, it's £8 per 1,000, and I used £2 worth of credit. I mean, it's peanuts. And delivery was £29 a month, which is based on the email mover account. So total cost of doing it was about £50. And so the cost per response that I was getting was about £17. And these are reasonably large companies, yeah? Okay, so the way in which this can work is that you can do it yourself with the tools that I've provided you with. So you can go into Contact Enhance, or you can do that by yourself. You can go to emailcleansing.com. You can cleanse the data for you know, what is a low amount of money. You can go to CountRunner, you can get some data, you can then go to Email Mover and you can send it all out. You can do the whole thing yourself, or you can pick up the phone and talk to one of our account managers. Phoebe, Amy, Reaper, they're all there, and you can get them to do the heavy lifting for you. So they will run the count for you. You can tell them the names of your customers and they'll do the profiling for you. You know, there's a lot that they can do, and then just send you the data, and there's no extra cost for that. There is a minimum order value, but there's no extra cost. You still pay the same CPMs and stuff. Then there's an everything done for you, which is a campaign service. This is where we will actually step and do the whole thing for you, including the delivery. We will filter the responses that come back in and just send through to you the warm leads, all that kind of stuff. And that typically works out, it's about £1,800 plus VAT per month for us to do that. And that should generate you somewhere in the region of about 30 leads for that. So that gives you guys an idea of what it is, the process, the beginning to end process of how this whole thing works. I would like to say special thanks to Rupert, Rob Elding, Rob Warner, and Mike, just for helping me put all this together. I've not done webinars before, and so I learned a lot from them. Now there is an offer that is going to come up, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let those people ask questions that need to ask questions and answer those questions before we move on to an offer. Or of course, if you've got everything that you need, you can leave now, no problem whatsoever. I'll just go through a couple of these questions, though. I've had a couple. So the alias you can't describe, be compliant with GDPR. So the alias account is actually not a real person. So that account does not belong to a person. It's owned by the corporate domain. So it is just like a sales app. It's technically a generic domain, like a sales app or an info app or something like that. So yes, you can do whatever it is that you want with that domain. It does not refer to a living individual, a living person. If it did, then it would bring into, it would bring GDPR in. So the unsubscribe, yep. So the unsubscribe, do you not need to add an unsubscribe link to the outbound email to be GDPR compliant? Yes, you do. But the system automatically does that for us. I actually didn't copy that bit because there was all sorts of stuff that I put at the bottom. So at the bottom in my email signature, which I cut out, I put links through to the website. I put registered address of the company, but also I put the text. If you do not want to receive any further emails from me, just reply with the word unsubscribe in the subject line. And if you do that, then the system will look at the subject line. It will remove anybody that is unsubscribing, and people do. And it will not send to them again. It's finished. The process is finished with them. And again, that's for compliance. One of the things I also put in there, if you've got it, is the ICO registration number, which is normally a Z number, and our company registration number, and a link through to the privacy policy on the website, of course. Okay, so we've got another one here. Can you please explain more about protecting your domain using a subdomain? I didn't quite understand it all. Yeah, sure. So if you've got a domain like, for example, tigers.com, then don't send the emails out from tigers.com. Send them out from tigersmail.com. So it's a non-precious domain. So if something happens to that domain, it's a completely brand new domain. It's nothing to do with tigers.com. And so you're protecting your main asset, an asset that could be, you know, worth significant amounts of money to the business. There's no risk to it whatsoever, especially if you're doing this for clients. That is really important. Because also, if you are an agency and you are providing this as a service to a client, you've done a lot of work in order to help them do all of this. And part of what it is that you've done is all of the knowledge, setting up these domains and everything. So you can turn it on and off for them as you see fit. So if they no longer want the solution, they no longer want this as a service, you can just turn it off and that's the end of it. It's your domain. You can do whatever it is you want with that domain. You can delete it, or you can just leave it online until maybe 3 months later when they come back to you and they need more leads. Okay, so that gives the answer to those questions. So I'm just going to click that. I've answered those questions live. And I'm also going to move on now to the offer. So if you don't want to see the offer, you can go now. Okay, so now I'm going to do an offer. And it's important, I think, for us to understand that this offer is going to be relevant to the webinar. So if you want to take us up on this offer, then there will be a code a bit later on where you do have to put in the webinar code. You will, however, get the checklist that comes through, and that will come through to you within about an hour of this webinar finishing, and it will be sent through to you by Zoom. So the webinars are around the done for you service. So this is where you have no experience or you don't want to be involved. You just want to tell us about the customers that you're dealing with. And those customers that you're dealing with, we will then create that profile for you. And then we will get the data, we will cleanse the data, and we will send to it. And all we will do once that campaign has gone out is give you access to the warm responses, the leads that are coming back in. So it's up to 10 customers. So typically in a 30-minute call with clients, we can identify with them 10 clients that they would like to model prospects on. And it shouldn't just be the client with the highest revenue in your pipeline. That's not really what we're looking for. It might be the client that you closed the fastest, or with the average order value, which is the highest, something like that. We normally walk you through how to do that, and 10 client names is enough really to give you a good profile. We've then got 10,000 lookalikes. So the deal includes access to 10,000 contacts and cleansing those contacts just before delivery, so that we remove invalids and don't have any bounces, hard bounces, that is. It will also include the copy, so the writing of the email copy, and the delivery. So we will take over the delivery of the campaign. Now, if you could see that I generated leads to less than 100 contacts. If you're sending out to 10,000, it's going to be a lot of contacts. So this is actually being delivered bulk. So it's going as a delivery, as a texting. So it uses all of the different assets. So the cleansing, the copy is written as a text and all that kind of stuff, but it's delivered under a higher volume pressure instead of one person, because that obviously would be a little bit too much for a G Suite account to handle. So we would take care of all of that for you. And when the leads come back in, we filter those and we respond by forwarding them on straight to a person within your team or a sales address. What you need to do, very simple. It's literally a done for you service. So it's a 30-minute onboarding call. And that is to identify those 10 customers and build your perfect prospect profile. You would agree that at the end of that, you would say, yeah, these are, normally we even tell you the companies that we'll likely be targeting, and you will say, yeah, those sound about the right companies that I want to target. And then you would be fielding the warm responses. So you would see the leads coming in, people asking for cost, that kind of stuff, and you would put that through to your sales team, or you would deal with it yourself, depending upon what size your business is. Okay, so now then, in terms of the special bonus. So Special bonus here is limited to 24 hours. So that is exactly what we've put there as the webinar offer. However, we're going to do 2 additional deliveries to the 10,000. So that's 30,000 emails being delivered in total to those contacts, those 10,000 contacts. And this is restricted to 24 hours. So it is from the end of this webinar, which should end in the next 11 minutes or so, and it is available for 24 hours from here. How much is it? So the offer expires within 24 hours, and we normally charged £1,800 for the standard deal. For this particular deal today, we're charging $899. Now that is $899 for those 30,000 emails delivered to those 10,000 prospects. It is the cleansing of the data, it is the copywriting, it is everything. A done-for-you service from 30-minute onboarding call. That's pretty much you not having to lift a finger and seeing those leads come in. Now then, what is important, I think, is that I finish on this last slide, where if you're wanting to take us up on the deal, how do you do it? And this is really simple. It's probably the most important part of it for those of you that are looking to do this. You need to send me an email at duncan@emailmovers.com within the next 24 hours with the Web 30K inside it as your subject line. Because I get a lot of emails and I need to be able to see those emails are coming in, so it has to be in the subject line. You will then receive a confirmation email back from me personally, and I'm here if you have any questions or if you've got any queries or need to chat about strategy. That 30-minute call is just for us to say we don't need more of your time than 30 minutes. If you want to call me and say, I've got an idea, what do you think? I'm here. That's what I do. I talk about ideas around cold email outreach all day long. You can also see that when I've seen that, I will respond to you. And once I've responded, you will be talking to Amy, Reaper, Phoebe, Carl, or Katie next week. They will know that you responded in time, and they will know what it is that you're expecting. And that brings us to the end of our webinar. I would like to just do a couple of things before you go. I would like you just to tell me a little bit about how you found the webinar, whether or not you saw an email come through from me, whether or not you got a LinkedIn post, or was it on Facebook, or if like me, you just can't remember because there was too much going on. I'd love a little bit of a feedback on that. Whilst you're doing that, I'm just going to give you a couple more tips as we've still got a few minutes left. So what's really important when we're sending out emails through G Suite accounts is that we warm them up. If you just put through a few hundred emails through a G Suite account that is brand new, that you've just registered under a non-precious domain, it won't work. It just won't work. You have to warm them up. So you have to build up to around 7 emails per minute by about 5 days. Now, our tool actually does that warm-up process for you. So if you if you're doing this yourself and you put those email addresses in that you want to contact, it will do that warm-up process for you. And it takes about 30 days to get to the point where it can be sending hundreds of emails out a day. But it's still only hundreds of emails that you're sending through an account a day. And if you're looking for leads to come back in off that, that rate in which you warm it up is really, really important. In order to make sure they don't come across as cold, you have to make them as relevant as possible. So thank you very much for answering that. I can see that email is way ahead at 43% of the people that found this webinar found it through email, which is music to my ears. Finally, I'd like to know whether or not you found this webinar helpful. And I would love to know a little bit more about whether or not we can help you and whether or not you'd like to have a follow-up. So I've just launched a quick poll there with, if you found that it was helpful, please do let me know. It was okay, yeah, whatever. I mean, I kind of knew most of it anyway, whatever. No, nothing new in there. You know, please feel free to tell me. I'll use this information to make the next one better. And yeah, if you want somebody to get into contact with you, then absolutely, just let me know, yes, ASP, or no, next week, let's leave it to next week. There's so much going on at the moment, isn't there? It's like we're being like in Zoom call after Zoom call. I've got a friend who was in 7 Zoom calls yesterday, and he just could not bear another one. So that was quite good. Yeah, so there's a lot going on. So if you want to take us up on the deal, please do send an email through to duncan@emailmovers.com. Put that web 30K in there. If you want more help next week, you're not ready to do anything, you know, if you kind of just, if things are just too mental, just put it in there and we will get back to you then. And I think with, I'm just going to let that one run because it's actually still running. It's nice to see that, and please, if it's not very helpful, just put it in there. Don't just leave, just say, no, this wasn't for me. It's really important that I'm able to understand what's going on there. But it looks as though there's been some really good, some good comments there. I'm just going to end that polling. And what I'm going to do just before we leave is say thank you. Thank you to my own team, for Sarah and George and Amy for their help on this. Thanks to you guys for coming along. I really do appreciate it. It was the first time I've ever actually done a webinar, and I hope that it's gone down okay. Ping me on LinkedIn, the email guy, if you've got any questions, or if you just want to give me some tips or what have you. And as I say, thanks to the guys that have been showing me how to do this. So that is everything from me. Thank you very much. And I will wish you the best of luck with your cold one-to-one email outreach.